So my name is Dion Richardson. I am 31 years old. I'm from Florida. I'm a father to one son, and his name is Donovan. Growing up, for me, I had a stepfather who was a pastor, so I grew up like a PK kid. So I really didn't have a child life as in really just hanging out with the kids. At times we used to hang out with the kids, but we was always at the house. We didn't really go out and go to the park with them. And so I grew up in the church, which my stepfather had his own church. It was a very small church. So I always grew up in the church at a young age, and I always seen my father had a small congregation, but he always stayed faithful, always cooked mostly every Sunday, preached to all his members. But in 2009, that's when he passed away. And at that moment, my life took a turn, meaning that I started to kind of do my own thing, because my mom wasn't as strict as my father. So me and my brother was just hanging out and just doing other things. So all that happened after he passed away. Then once all that happened, I didn't really get in no major trouble, but I was kind of on a different path. But growing up in the house, our father definitely taught us prayer. I mean, it'll be moments where we'll be just on our knees praying for hours and after hours. So that's one of the things that I teach my son now about prayer. That was kind of like the one of the things that I learned definitely from him, just praying and praying the Bible and stuff like that. But as a kid, that was one of the things I remember, like my brother take his turn, we would just pray. Okay, so on September the 21st of 2021, my life has changed. Why? Because God was leading me to Texas. But I'm from Florida. At that time, I was on my mama's couch. I was doing Uber. And so I knew something was coming up, because months ago, he kept nudging me. I said, man, for some reason, I know God is up to something. And I didn't really know. So I just kept saying God was up to something. Before you know it, I had took my leap of faith, and I had booked a flight to Texas. So I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm from Austin, Texas, which I was staying in San Marcos, Texas. So it's only about 35 minutes from Austin. So the signs were leading me. So I seen a truck that had the Texas on the side of, I'm not sure it was a Chevron or whichever it was. I seen Texas on the side of the truck. Then I seen like a Texas tag almost. So I know, as for God, anytime he sends something, he gonna send multiple confirmation to know that it is him. So after these signs, I started knowing that God was leading me to Texas for some reason. So I kept moving from place to place, because God just kept moving from place to place. And at that point, my faith had went to another level, and I was just being obedient to him. So I landed in Fort Worth within 6 months. So he gave me, within the Open Dream, Longhorn. So once I had seen that, I knew he wanted me to move from Fort Worth to Austin. And so then I moved from Austin to Tennessee. So he always gave me different signs and confirmation that he was taking me from place to place. But the reason why it was more easier, because I didn't have anything holding me back, and my faith went to a certain level, because God took me from off my mama's couch all the way to Fort Worth. So at that moment, I just feel like God could kind of trust me to go ahead and move from place to place. So I got to Tennessee. God, for some reason, I always know when God is up to something. Well, he started nudging me. And so basically, like, God just started showing me the glimpse of my future, which I'm not gonna go in full details, but he started showing me the future, and like, this is where I'm supposed to be at. So at that moment, I just knew that he was leading me here. I didn't waste no time to start making plans and start to go ahead and find a place here and everything. So in April 2022, my mom's birthday is on my mom's birthday is on April the 7th, which my mom was planning to come to Nashville, Tennessee, which I never been there, my mom never been there. So around April the 7th, we came to Nashville. But just 2 weeks later, I was moving to Austin to San Marcos. But God never gave me the indication to move there. And I think the main reason because it wasn't that time. But like the time we visited her, I never said, you know, I don't want to move here. I never got any signs. But I just feel like God was just setting ourselves in the blessing before we knew it was a blessing. He was just setting us up because God told her to come here, not me. He told her to come to Nashville. I was like, why are we coming here? But I was just, you know, it was my mom, her birthday. I was like, okay, we'll go. So me, my mom, my son, my brother, we came here, we visited here. But God didn't tell me to move here till 6 months later. I finally moved to Nashville, Tennessee. This journey changed my life just within my relationship with God, because during this time, I started to bond with God. It was like a walk with me, talk with me, relationship. And I had built my faith up to the point where I just knew I could trust God. But even if your faith goes to a certain level, you still have to trust Him to know it don't matter. So it just changed my life because God took me from off my mom's couch to living in Texas State, in Tennessee, all by myself, with no family, with no friends, anybody. So that changed my life, and God just elevated me, blessed me in all ways. So my main motivation that kept me going was my son and my relationship with God, because during this time, me and God was locked in. I always caught myself, especially in Fort Worth, journeying with God, praying with God, because I didn't have anybody there. So I had to just lean on God and trust God. So that just kept me going, because sometimes the enemy would come in to try to deal with you. But during that time, like I say, God, my faith, and my son just kept me going. It just kept me motivated. So the sacrifice that I made along the journey, I went almost 8 months with no car. During this time, I was taking buses, trains. I was still going to Florida to see my son. I was walking, I was riding a bike. I had a scooter one time. I did all that for 8 months straight. So that was one of the sacrifices. And another sacrifice where I was still going to see my son through all that. I was still going to Florida from catching a bus, catching a train, and still going to see my son throughout this whole journey. The message that I would give somebody for this interview as a motivation, just try to build your relationship with God and build your faith. If like God is calling you, asks you to take the leap of faith, to trust Him, because God don't always show you everything, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes He could be pulling you or nudging you. So just trust God and just lean on Him and lean on His word, because that's something I did. Because back in Florida, I was on my mama's couch and I was doing an Uber, and I trusted God to jump on the round trip. And during that time, I didn't even come back. I stayed down, but it was just my trust within Him. And so I just leaned on that and His faith.